Hi, I'm Adele McAlear. Unfortunately, I've got the nickname of the Death Chick. A couple of years ago, I started talking about digital legacy. That is, looking at the intersection of social media, technology, and death. And what happens to all your stuff online when you die. So today, I'm going to talk about this in the context of digital photographs and family history and memory. This is a picture of me and my dad. I was 2, and also very loud, apparently. I was 2, and this was taken the day I came home from the hospital. I had been very sick. I had a 30% chance of survival, and when I came home, my mother commemorated the occasion with a photograph. It's particularly important to me for a couple of reasons. Firstly, today it's interesting because my dad actually got his master's degree from Loyola across the road, so that's kind of interesting that I'm here doing this talk. And also because this is probably one of only 5 pictures of me as a young child, 20 under the age of 5. That's it in existence. In addition, my dad died when I was 13, so this is only one of a handful of photographs I have with him. So photographs end up being about a point in time. When you look at a photograph, its mythology and the story and everything around it melds into one. I don't remember when this photograph was taken, but I know the story around it. I know what time of year it was. I know how my mother felt in the hospital when she was, looking after me. It's a very powerful, precious photograph to me. And I'm sure that everybody has a photograph in your own collections that is important to you, that you cherish. Oops. Let's go. So just as memory is thought of as an image, it's also produced by and through images. Sometimes it's difficult to know what is actually your own memory and what is just the memory that the photograph is evoking within you. They kind of get intertwined sometimes. I know that for myself, there are huge gaps in my childhood I don't remember, but when I look at a photograph, I know the story around the photograph, but it doesn't necessarily mean I am remembering it from my own perspective. It's like I'm remembering it from looking at the photograph. Now, let's take a big step backwards to cave art. This is like one of the first examples of humans using visual images to transfer their stories. Now, this wasn't just a matter of, hey, I'm going to tell you a yarn. This is a matter of survival for humans. You had to be able to know where the good hunting grounds were, what the poisonous plants were. But beyond that, when they started to include themselves in cave art, it came back to, where is my place in the world? This is who I am. I was here. So photography and visual images are so tied to us as a species that it's intrinsic to our beings. Oops, let's go back. Now we're going to jump way ahead to 1888. And before this, the biggest technical revolution in communicating stories was the invention of the Gutenberg press. That revolutionized text-based storytelling and communication. It saw a worldwide rapid increase in literacy. The Gutenberg press changed the world. This is the next thing that changed the world. 1888, Kodak introduced the Brownie camera. It was the first time that people had access to a camera that had film that you would put in for processing. You didn't need to own your own darkroom. You didn't need to know how to mix chemicals to make that magic image appear on paper. Suddenly, snapshot photography was born. Kodak's slogan at the time was, "You press the button, we'll do the rest." It sold for $1 and it enabled the common person to take photographs. Now we'll fast forward. This is 1970. I was 5. I'm the flower girl. And I remember this wedding so clearly. Not because I really remember the wedding, but because I remember the pictures of the wedding. My mother knew I'd probably be bored, and so she sent me off to this wedding. My sister is standing beside me, and sent me off to the wedding. As a way to kind of keep me out of my sister's hair, she sent me with a camera, Kodak camera with 126 film, 24 exposures. Off you go, kid. And I spent my time at the wedding reception taking pictures of people from a 5-year-old perspective, up at them like this, with the sunlight behind them, all these happy, smiling, youthful faces, this day of joy of their friends getting married. And I took the entire roll of film. I was so sad when I took that last picture and wound the camera, and it went, oh. My job as unofficial photographer was over, and I was very sad about that. So I went home, and I was so happy about all this film I shot, and I gave it to my mom. She was furious with me. "You took the whole roll of film? It's expensive, don't you know that?" I go, "Oh, sorry." It was expensive at the time. In today's dollars, it would have been about $35 to have a roll of film developed. And, of course, there's that magic with film. You never know what you're going to get when you take it out to the store, you hand it over, and you pay your $35 to get it out of hock again, and you get it back, and you're like, "Oh, I wonder, is anything going to work?" You open it up, and and they're all dark or fuzzy, and you might get 1 or 2 good ones. This is the last roll of film I will likely ever have developed. This has been sitting on my shelf at home for about 4 or 5 years. I have no idea what's on it. No idea what's on it. I suspect there are baby pictures on there from my own daughter, but I have no idea. I gave away my film camera 4 years ago. So this will be interesting. But I might document the whole thing as like, this is nostalgia. Here I am, bringing my last roll of film to be developed. This is my daughter. She is 5. So where there were 20 photos of me up until the age of 5, she was born the time of digital cameras. I have thousands of photos of her. Thousands. And the difficult part comes in knowing which ones, do I keep, do I get rid of? I hate deleting them. I keep even the bad ones. I'm sure a lot of people here probably do that too. Yes, something funny about deleting them. But the interesting thing about digital photography that's come about is that you now have the opportunity to document an entire person's life in such detail. And it's not even just about digital photography. Let's blow that out into other technologies that are happening right now. Okay, so Twitter, Facebook updates, blogging, video. You can document a life like never before. So think of all that content that we're all capable of creating, putting online, sharing, sending by email, storing on hard drives, buying extra hard drives to store more stuff that you can't keep on your first hard drive because you've got too much stuff. And then you burn stuff onto CDs, burn them onto DVDs, and find more ways to store stuff, buy extra memory cards for your camera, buy stuff, lots and lots and lots of digital stuff. It's great. I think, oh, wow, historians are going to look at this, and they're going to be able to reconstruct this moment in time that, they've never been able to do this before. It used to be the only people that could have this type of documentation were the nobility, because they would pay a biographer to kind of shadow them around and write good things about them. But now, I'm thinking, well, from a historical perspective, this is going to be really interesting. They'll be able to look back and really know how we lived. This is my grandmother, around the 1920s. She was a flapper. And I love this picture because I look at her and I actually see a physical resemblance in my face, the roundness of my face. I go, oh, yeah, that's my grandmother. I can tell that. But you know, my mother has these photo albums of all these kind of old black and white photos of people I don't really know who they are, but I look at them and they look vaguely like there's a familial resemblance there. And I think, that's really cool. I wish she'd write on them who they were. But aside from that, I think it's wonderful to be able to go back in history in these cherished albums that have been passed from generation to generation. I think, well, we're creating all this digital stuff, right? We're documenting our lives. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great? Think of the value in the future. Let's put the brakes on for a minute. What if we're wrong? What if this stuff is not going to survive us? What if all this digital stuff that you've got out there, the litter, the digital litter that's just everywhere, what if it disappears in 5 years, 20 years, 50 years? What if all those collections of analog photos you've now scanned and thrown all the analog photos out, throw the paper out, keep the standing because it's much easier to transport around? What if those paper photos in those old photo albums outlive your digital stuff? Are we creating a digital dark age? Will historians 100 years from now look back at this time and say, that technology was so fragile, so unstable, that we have lost pretty much everything? It's possible. The need to create and have widespread access to digital materials has raced ahead of the level of general awareness and understanding of what it takes to manage them effectively. So what that means is, okay, let's go with online services. Let's start there first. You take a whole bunch of photos and you put them on Facebook. Ownership issues aside, legal issues aside. As Mitch was saying this morning, Facebook is a business. They're out to make money. What are they going to do with your stuff? You know, people think, oh, Facebook, 600 million users, it's going to be around for a long time. Well, you know what? They're only 7 years old. A long time is a heck of a lot longer than 7 years old. Where are they going to be in 20 years? Everybody used to think that about MySpace. Where's MySpace now, right? So we're so caught up in the now. We're so caught up in the instant gratification of automatic updates and everything's now that we're failing to think about what happens to our stuff a generation from now. So Facebook, they have servers. What if the business goes under? What if they get bought? What if the servers go down? Chances are you've got copies of your photos on your hard drives. There was an article written recently that says that the lifespan of a hard drive is 2 to 3 years before it starts to malfunction and click and act up. All right, so you think, okay, well, I buy redundant hard drives, so I store my stuff on. So I back up this hard drive to this hard drive. Well, you're still creating that domino effect. Then there's, okay, well, I could burn it onto a CD or a DVD. I gave this talk once about digital legacy, and I had somebody come up to me afterwards and said, you know, I burned all I had a baby 3 years ago, I burned all my baby pictures onto this DVD, and I went to access them the other day, and none of them would open. Because it turns out the lifespan to physical media, DVD, CD, is only about 5 years. The plastic starts to degrade. So, yes, storage is cheap. Yes, storage is plentiful. Storage is not permanent. Now let's go back and think about other things. File format obsolescence. Okay, so let's think about the evolution of software and the file formats that they support. How many people remember working on WordPerfect? Corel Draw. So that was only 10, 15 years ago. You know, if you try to open an early a document done in the early version of Word, with a current version of Word, it's not going to open. Adobe just announced about 6 months ago that they're no longer going to support the TIFF file format. So it's so immediate. Everything we're creating is so immediate without much thought about 20 years, because the internet's only 20 years old. The web is 20 years old. So just think about the evolution of how much we've created in that time period. So then what it comes down to is not to freak everybody out, go, your stuff's in danger, man. But it is, kind of. What you really need to do is think about what's important to you that you have. Because although you can document a lifetime, it doesn't mean that that entire lifetime is worth keeping. Maybe pick some gems. Concentrate on that. But what it takes is curation. See, there's great things happening at the institutional level. You've got the Wayback Machine that's taking snapshots of the web. The great thing about the Wayback Machine, it's a wonderful thing, but it doesn't do much for your individual memories. For instance, the Wayback Machine took a snapshot of my Flickr page. I'm like, yeah, it's there, woo, safe. Yeah, but it's the front page that shows 6 pictures. I can't go deeper into the site from there, and it was from 2 years ago, and it's only been done once. So that's not the solution. The Internet Archive, they're doing great work with archiving live music, with archiving books, but that doesn't do anything for you, the individual. It's great for humankind and our knowledge, but it doesn't do anything for your descendants and for what's important to you on your individual level. So, the most important thing here is that you might not be able to save everything. You might not have the capacity or the time, just the time that it takes to curate things. I mean, metadata alone, okay? So you have this huge photo collection, and now you're supposed to save everything with a proper descriptive title, and you're supposed to have them properly organized and indexed. I guarantee you not a lot of people have the patience to do that. So now the point is, the web is fragile. The web is not forever. As long as you put something on somebody else's server, somebody else has control over it. Google might index it, but link rot is huge. So just because Google's indexed it and you might find it there, their cached version might not be up to par. Do you really want to rely on that? So the idea here is, the takeaway from this is, grab every memory you can. But then think about what is important to you, what is inherent to your being to pass along to the next generation, to your friends, to your family, and take steps to curate that content. Be aware of it. Treat it like the precious thing it is. Memory. When we think about how photographs intertwine themselves with memory, you want to take care of your digital collections in the same way that my mother takes care of those paper photo albums. Cherish them so that we've got something for our future. Thank you.